Hi, I'm going to make a quick tutorial that has a dual purpose. Purpose one is to show my friend Andy the screen recorder program that I use for tutorials of this nature. It's called FlashBack Standard. And the second purpose of this tutorial is to show my friend Roger some of the editing techniques that I use with the clone stamp tool, content aware fill, and things of that nature. And both Andy and Roger are members, along with me, of Ron Clifford's cohort of Landscape Mastery. So anyway, let's move along here. Andy, you see that I'm recording the webcam, which is kind of handy if you want people to see you while you're recording, but of course you can't have a window this large in the middle of your desktop, or you wouldn't be able to see the things that you're recording. So I'm going to make this smaller here. I hope. Let's see, this is very touchy little thing to do here. Let's see. Oh boy, there it goes. Finally I got the mouse in the right position, and I don't know why that is so touchy. I'm going to make me smaller, put me over here into this corner like this, and we'll move ahead. I think later the position I put the webcam in will get in the way of some buttons that I want to use, and we'll have to drop the webcam, but we'll leave it on for the moment. You're seeing my desktop on my computer. Let's bring up the programs that I use for editing. I use Adobe Camera Bridge as my image organizer and browser, and then I edit my images in Adobe Camera Raw instead of Lightroom. I'm not a Lightroom user. I use Adobe Camera Raw through Bridge, and then I do my final editing of my photographs in Photoshop CC, the Creative Cloud, the latest version of Photoshop. So I'm in Adobe Bridge. Here are some photographs that I took yesterday. This is Honeoye Falls, New York, which is a suburb of Rochester. And when I shoot, I always bracket 3 images or more, even though I don't necessarily create high dynamic range images. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't, but I like to have the option to do that later. So memory is cheap, so I shoot 3 shots. Here you see that I shot a dark image at -2, also shot a +2 image, and I'm going to edit actually just the 0 EV image. This is shot with the Sony A7R II and 24-240 lens, which I absolutely love. It is a wonderful lens, even though it doesn't get very high ratings from the people that use that lens, or the people that test the lenses, I should say. Boy, it does a marvelous job for me. Maybe I just got a good one. I don't know. Anyway, I'm going to right-click on the image here in Bridge to bring it up in Adobe Camera Raw. This tutorial shouldn't be about my workflow, but I'm going to show you briefly what I do with most of my images. As I go in Adobe Camera Raw to the lens correction tab up here. By the way, Andy, notice that there's a yellow circle around the mouse. That's really a handy feature of this screen recorder program, that it allows the viewers to more easily see the mouse as it moves around the screen with that yellow thing around it, and also it flashes as I click it so that you can tell that I've clicked the mouse. So that's a pretty handy little feature of this recorder program. Pardon me. And I'm going to go down here under Profile, and I'm going to enable Lens Profile Corrections, and you see that it knows I shot this with the Sony 24-240 lens. And if there were any chromatic aberration at this point, I would click on the Color tab and click the Remove Chromatic Aberration. But this lens doesn't produce any chromatic aberration, or if it does, I guess the processing engine in that new Sony A7R II does a good job of removing it. But anyway, if you go to a high contrast area like up here in the trees and the corners, this is usually where you would see chromatic aberration. As you can see, there's no purple fringing or green fringing or anything of that nature, so I really don't need to click the Remove Chromatic Aberration. Now let me go back to the basic panel. Right click here. I'm going to fit this in view so that we can see it. About the only corrections I would make in Camera Raw with this image at this point is to do what I would normally do, which is pull highlights down a little, pull shadows up a little, which is what I did just before I started this tutorial. That's why those sliders were already positioned like that. I forgot to reset them before I started this tutorial. And so now I want to open the image into Photoshop and start showing Roger some of the things that I'd like to eliminate in this photograph, like this metal railing that we see down here in the lower left-hand corner, these white chairs that are over here beside the house, and some of these stray branches up above here. So maybe we'll do some of that quickly. But right now, if I want to open this image in Photoshop, there's a button down here hidden under my webcam. this is open image, so I move me up here out of the way. I could now click on this and open it, but you know what? You're tired of seeing me anyway, so I'm just going to click this X, Andy, and eliminate the webcam at this point. Webcam's gone. Now we don't need to worry about me being distracting there. Now I can click down in this area and open the image into Photoshop CC. While that image is opening, you notice that I'm staring at you there in a fixed position, and that's because that's a screen capture I did just before I started this tutorial that I wanted to show Andy here. I can't show you the BB FlashBack recorder operational window while I'm recording, because while I'm recording this is hidden. So I did a screen capture just before I started the recording so that you can see what it looks like. This is the interface window that you use when you start BB FlashBack Recorder, and allows you to record full screen or windows. It allows you to choose whether you record the speakers in your computer or use an external microphone like I'm using. It allows you the option to record the webcam, which I did, of course, and also the settings button allows you to make some changes to the settings of the webcam, and I'll show you that. Let me close this window here. No, we don't need to keep that. Now let's see. Here's this is a screen capture of the webcam window that would come up before I started recording, that allows me to do some things like change the brightness and contrast and so forth, and also change the resolution if I want to record a higher frame rate or whatever. So those are the two windows, Andy, that you might be interested in seeing if you decide to use a BB FlashBack Standard. I like it. I think it's a great program. Let me close that. Let's forget that now, and let's move on to editing this image. Let me hit Control Z to make it full screen. I'm in Photoshop CC. As I said, the first thing I would like to do is eliminate this little metal hand railing from the bottom of the screen over here that gets in the way. And there's several ways to do it. Like everything in Photoshop, there's a half a dozen different ways of accomplishing anything, and people have their own favorite methods. I have 2 or 3 methods of editing and eliminating things out of images that I like to use, and let me show you 2 or 3 of them. Let me zoom into this area by moving over here and clicking on the magnifier tool, the zoom tool it's called actually, and zooming into this area down here. And let's see here, I'm going to move the image around in my window by pushing the space bar, which will change the cursor from the little zoom magnifier image to a hand, clicking on the left mouse button, and that allows me to move the image around so that I can center this little piece of metal railing that I want to eliminate, and show Roger how to do that. Pardon me. First tool I'm going to use is the one of my go-to tools called the spot healing brush. Click on that, and then hold down the left mouse button and paint this area like so. And when I release the left mouse button, Photoshop will do a content aware fill and fill in this area with what it thinks should be in that area to make it look more natural. So I'll let go. As you see, it did a marvelous job. Let me hit Control Z. There's before, there's after. Hard to improve on that, but there are other ways of doing it that are almost as good. So let me show you a couple of others. Let me hit Control Z and bring it back the way it was. Now let's show you another method of eliminating that I like to use quite a bit, and that's use the lasso tool. Sometimes this works better in some cases than the spot healing brush. In this case, they work about the same. But you take the lasso tool and you select this area that you want to eliminate, drawing across here by holding the left mouse button, drawing around this area here, coming up to here, and now I've selected the metal rail that I want to eliminate. Here's an entry. Write this down. Get your pencil ready. If you're using Windows, the entry is Shift F5 Enter. Shift F5 Enter. Watch what happens. Shift F5, which brings up this little window that says I'm going to fill in this area with content aware fill, and if I hit enter or click OK, either one, enter, I'm going to hit enter, and you see it fills in that area. There's before, there's after. Did a very similar job to what the spot healing brush did. That entry again was Shift F5 and enter on Windows, and on Mac, I'm not a Mac guy, but I have it written down here. Somebody told me what it is on Mac. On Mac, the entry is Shift Delete OK. Shift Delete OK on Mac, or Shift F5 Enter on Windows. Okay, let me hit Control Z and bring this back, and I'm going to hit Control D to deselect that area. And now I'm going to show you another method of eliminating this this little piece of metal in the corner that on some images really comes in handy. It doesn't work so great on this one, but it will work. Let me hit Control 0. That makes it full screen. And I'm going to show you another tool up here. I'm sure you're familiar with the crop tool up here. And if you notice when you click on the crop tool, or before you click on it, there's a little triangle here which indicates that there's more tools hidden under this one. So if you right click, you'll see the other 3 tools that are included under the crop tool, and one of them is called Perspective Crop Tool. I like this one. I use this one quite a bit on some images. It really works out well. I'm going to click on that, and now you have a perspective crop. And if you draw across the image like this and put your outline the entire image, you can now grab corners and little handles that are around here and do things with the crop. Watch what happens if I go down here to this bottom left corner and I grab the little handle down here and lift up like this. I can lift this bottom edge of the image up a bit to the top of that metal rail, and now when I hit click, it's going to distort the image and eliminate that that little piece of railing down there. Let me hit Control Z. There's before and there's after. Now you notice one of the downsides to using that image is it distorts the whole left side of the image. You notice that the house is now leaning to the left. If I really insisted on using that tool, I would then have to go back and correct the squareness of the building up there to make sure that the house is nice and square. To do that, I'll do it very quickly just to show you that the easiest way to do it is to pull down a guideline. You see this bright green line that I pull down here, and I'll use that as a guide to level the roof. To get a guideline like that, you have to have the rulers up around the windows on your Photoshop program. And to get these rulers on the left and the top under view, if you go down here to rulers, you need to make sure that you check rulers. That puts those little rulers along the edge. And when you have the rulers on the edge, either the top or the left edge, you can reach in here, click with the left mouse button, and pull in a guideline like this. Comes in very handy when you want to square up something in an image like this house. Now to square up the image, I select all, and now you see the marching ants all around the window. And I go over to Edit, Transform, Skew. And then now that I'm in the skew mode here, I go up here and pick up this this handle at the top left and lift up on it, and you see I can pull the image back up to square up the house and make it square and level again. It's actually off just a little bit here, so I can grab this bottom handle down here and pull it out a little bit this way, and now that house is nice and straight. That house, by the way, is built on the foundation of a sawmill that was built on the falls and in the 1790s, I think 1793. The original sawmill burned down sometime in the 1800s, and the house there were houses that had been built on that foundation, a couple of them. This is the most recent house that was built on the old stone foundation. It was built sometime about 100 years or so ago. A fellow that owns that house is a photographer, I'm told. I've never met him. And in the summer, to thwart photographers, or maybe to help them, depending on your opinion, he puts out these white chairs. And some people like the white chairs because they complement the white trim around the windows. Other people hate them and find them as a distraction. Let's pretend today that they're a distraction. We want to get rid of them. Let me finish with this perspective correction that I made here. Let me click the checkbox to accept those changes I made. Let me hit View and clear those guides off of the screen. That eliminates those guides. And then I'm going to go to Select and click Deselect to get rid of the marching ants around the image. And now we're back to where we want to be to start working on those white chairs. Assuming, pardon me, I have to cough. I ate a peanut just before starting to record this tutorial, and I think the peanut went down wrong, and I keep needing to clear my throat a little bit. I apologize for that. Let me go to the zoom tool and zoom in on these chairs, and I'll show you here. There again, that shows you how sharp that lens is. I'm just really pleased with that Sony 24 to 240 lens. I think it's just marvelous. Let's kind of position these down in this area here, and let me zoom in a little bit further. I'm going to push my space bar, and gives me the hand again so that I can move this around where I want it. Now, if I tried to use the spot healing brush to eliminate this chair, I know in advance from trying this just before I recorded the tutorial that doesn't work. And here's why it doesn't work. Let me take the spot healing brush here, click on that, click my left mouse button so that I can paint onto the chair, and let Photoshop replace that chair with what it thinks is the correct background, what's behind the chair. Photoshop thinks the following things are behind the chair when I let go of the mouse button. As you see, it picked up some of the foliage and did a fairly good job on it, but it also picked up some of the red siding from the house. That's just not right. So there's before and there's after, and this is just all wrong. So that doesn't work. I can tell you I also tried using the lasso tool and lassoing around there, and using the Shift F5 Enter content aware fill method, and that also produced the same result. So these methods of editing in this area aren't going to work. I'm going to have to do something different. And the easiest thing to do, let me zoom out just a little bit here. I'm hitting my control button and minus to zoom out a little bit. To eliminate this chair here, I'm going to use the clone stamp tool. So I'm going to click over here on the clone stamp tool. What I want to do is clone some of the pixels of the foliage up in this area into this area and eliminate the chair that way. Paint out the chair, if you please. And the way to do that is to decide what part of this area I'd like to use. Now I'll use this area about here. I push the Alt button and click the left mouse button, and now that has selected those pixels in that area. And now I'm going to paint them into this area. Let me make the brush larger. To make the brush larger, I hit the right bracket key. Right bracket key makes the brush larger, left bracket key makes it smaller. Okay, so I'm going to make it larger so that I can do this a little quicker. Paint in this area like this, and I can pretty much eliminate that chair and make that look pretty good. Now I need to make the brush smaller. Left bracket key, so that I can do a little finer adjustment down in this area here, and do the best job I can. Pretty good, but I have some artifacts here that I need to eliminate, so let me zoom in on that area so we can see what I have. I have the one of the back part of that chair, one of the legs of the chair here, and the leg of the chair here that I need to eliminate. I find that some of the easiest way to do this is to take the clone stamp tool, decide what pixels I want to put in this area, which in this case would be like pixels from this area. Click the Alt button, click the left mouse button to select those pixels, and clone them down into this area. Likewise, to eliminate this leg here, I will hit the Alt button, select pixels here by clicking the left mouse button, and then move those pixels over to here and copy them in. That looks good. Same thing with this leg over here. I'm going to click the Alt button, click the left mouse button here to select these pixels, move over here, clone them into here. Does a good job of eliminating them. I'm not going to spend a lot more time on the other chair that's right in here. We can do that. There's no point in me bothering to do that. I just want to show you a couple of other things that I would like to do with this image. And one thing that bothers me is there is a bright orange box back in here. I don't know if you see it or not. Let me zip back in this area. You see this bright orange box. Now sometimes you can take something like that and just eliminate it by using the spot healing brush, and in fact it will do a really good job. I know that from testing this before I recorded this tutorial. Click on the spot healing brush and just put it over that orange box and click on it, and bingo, it's gone. I mean, that is as good as it gets right there. But sometimes we don't want to eliminate an item, we just don't want it to be as obvious as it was. Let's say for some reason, suppose that I like that little square form back there, and that box is important to me to keep in there, but it's distracting because of the color. I would like to just desaturate that red color so that it's not so obvious. If I desaturate red in the entire image, bring the image back to full screen. If I desaturated red in the entire image, of course, I would desaturate the beautiful red color in the house and also the red color in some of these fall trees up here. Don't want to do that. I just want to just desaturate the red in that area. To do that, let me zoom back in on it here. Here it is. You just select this area and desaturate the red in here because there's no other red in this immediate area. Now, if these leaves on top of it from the bush here were red and we wanted to leave them, then this would be a problem. We'd be back to using another method for eliminating it. But since there's no other red in this area, if I take the lasso tool, click on that, and select this area right here, you see there's a little red over here showing through too, or orange I guess it is really. And now I want to desaturate the red in that area. We could bring up a hue and saturation layer over here. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to go over here to Image, Adjustments, Hue and Saturation. That brings up this little window right here. I'm going to click on Master and change it from Master to Reds. And now that I am affecting only the reds in this selected area right here, I can pull the saturation down and you see it go away. Now it's still kind of a bright color. You can see that form in there. I could even take the lightness of those pixels and change it darker, and now they're even less obvious. And click OK. So Control Z, there's before, there's after. Before, after. Does a great job of removing the distracting element, the orange color, but still leaves the form of the item in the background there. Let me hit Control D to deselect that area. Another area that I want to show you, let's do Control 0. Another distracting area are these bare tree limbs above the house over here. So I'd like to eliminate those. So let me zoom into that area. And didn't get close here. Let's see, I went in a little too far. Let me go back out just a little bit here by hitting Control and minus. I'm going to hold my space bar and my mouse. I'm going to click on the left side so I can bring that into the center of the window. This is what I want to eliminate, are all these stray limbs over here, those bare limbs that don't contribute to the image and distract from it. Since we know that this house is nice and square now, I squared it up and I know that's level, I can take this rectangular marquee tool up here, click on that, and select this area right above the house. Let me be real careful where I put it there. Pretty close. And now use my content aware fill entry I showed you, the 3-finger method of Shift F5 and enter. So I'm going to hit Shift F5, enter, and Photoshop did a lousy job. You notice that it picked up some pixels from the house, and that's because I went down too far with that selection, that it thought I wanted part of the house to fill in that area. You see, there's before and there's after. That's obviously wrong. So let's go back to before and let's reselect this area. First, let me deselect by just clicking on the screen, deselect. And let's select that again, but let's not get down into the house. Let's stop short of the house. You see, of letting that bottom line touch the roof. I don't want to do that. I want to stop right there. And now I want to try that again by doing Shift F5 and enter. And now I did a much better job. It knows that I didn't want to pick up part of the roof and the tree and so forth and put it into that area. So anyway, there's before, there's after. So you got to see me make a boo-boo and then do it correctly the second time. Now you could really, let me Control D to deselect. I could actually get down in here with the clone stamp tool and do a neat job of cleaning that up right there. There's some artifacts there, but that's beyond the scope of what I'm doing here today. Control 0 to bring the image back to full screen. And one other thing that I wanted to show you, Roger, before I finish up here, I'm about done, is I sure wouldn't want to eliminate this whole tree that has washed down the Honeoye Creek and fallen over the waterfall here. But this part, let's say we assume that that's really distracting, that's in front of the waterfall, and we'd like to eliminate just this part of the tree. And the clone stamp tool generally does a pretty good job of this type of thing. Not the clone stamp, I'm sorry, the spot healing brush. So I'm going to click on the spot healing brush and left click on my mouse so that I can paint over the part that I want to eliminate, and see how good a job Photoshop does at eliminating that part of the tree. Not bad, not bad. Stump looks a little funny here, but not too bad. It didn't do a real good job of trimming out the waterfall here at the bottom. Let's zoom in on that just a little bit here. You see it picked up some pixels from down in this area and left them here, and it looks like the water flows over here and stops suddenly. So what I would like to do then is use the clone stamp tool to clean up that by picking up some pixels, let's say pixels in this area right here, Alt key and left mouse button to pick up that. and clone those into this area to make it look a little more like a natural waterfall. That looks better. This area here needs the same treatment. So again, pick up those pixels over there, clone them into this area here, and make that look a little more natural. There you go. Much better. Okay, Control 0, and now we're back to full screen. And that's pretty much a finished image, except for going in and finishing by cleaning out that other white chair over there that I'm not going to do today for the sake of time. Okay, I hope that helps Andy to get an understanding of the BB FlashBack program and how a screen recorder program, how it works, and also show Roger some of the techniques I use for editing my photos. Again, they say there's 50 ways to leave your lover. There's also 50 ways to do everything in Photoshop, and I just showed you 3 or 4 of them. Thank you very much for your time, and I'll see you guys back in Ron's cohort. Bye-bye.